Central African Republic President wins a third term in office by landslide. The United Nations deeply concerned by the continuing suffering of civilians in Sudan, citing new reports of drone strikes. Plus, Uganda government denies plans to shut down internet on election day. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Joke Rogers here in Lagos. Provisional results from the Central African Republic show President Faustin Touadera has won a third term after securing an outright majority in last month's presidential election. The 68-year-old mathematics professor was widely expected to win after the main opposition coalition boycotted the poll, citing concerns about electoral fairness. President Touadera campaigned on his security record in the chronically unstable nation after rebels seized power in 2013, a crisis that led the government to enlist support from Russian mercenaries and Rwandan soldiers. He has faced heavy criticism after a 2023 constitution removed term limits, allowing him to keep running for office. And Uganda has denied plans to shut down internet access during next week's elections, dismissing reports of a possible blackout as unfounded. The Uganda Communications Commission says there are no plans to cut internet access and that reports of an impending blackout are mere rumors, as the Commission's mandate is to ensure uninterrupted connectivity. This comes after concerns were raised by the main opposition candidate, Robert Kyagulanyi, widely known as Bobby Wine, who last week repeated claims that the government intended to block the internet to disrupt mobilization and the sharing of election results. The fears then intensified on Friday after satellite internet provider Starlink restricted its services in Uganda following a directive from the National Communications Regulator. The United Nations says it remains deeply concerned by the continuing suffering of civilians in Sudan, citing new reports of drone strikes that killed and displaced civilians across several regions. Briefing reporters in New York, UN spokesperson Stefan Dujarric said violence has escalated early this year, particularly in the Darfur and Kordofan regions, with civilians increasingly caught in the fighting.
Turning to the situation in Sudan, and I can tell you that we remain deeply concerned by the continuing suffering of civilians amid escalating violence, particularly in the Darfur and Kordofan regions of that country. In North Darfur states, drone strikes on January 3rd reportedly caused civilian casualties in the villages of Al-Zork and Goher, including strikes on a market and a medical clinic. The same day in West Darfur State, one civilian was reportedly killed following two drone attacks in the Kulbus locality. Our humanitarian partners say the strikes in Kulbus displaced more than 600 people. In South Kordofan State, multiple drone attacks between January 1st and 3rd in Dilling reportedly resulted in civilian deaths and injuries. The situation in the city remains dire, with civilians trapped under siege and humanitarian conditions continuing to deteriorate as access to essential supplies is increasingly restricted. We reiterate our call for the protection of civilians and for the unhindered humanitarian access to all affected areas. Continued and predictable humanitarian access to deliver life-saving assistance and to prevent further deterioration of the humanitarian situation is essential.
We now turn to a growing diplomatic crisis unfolding just beyond Nigeria's borders. Benin Republic and Niger have expelled each other's diplomats in a rare and escalating tit-for-tat move that signals a serious breakdown in relations between the two neighbors. This is not just a quarrel between foreign ministries, it's the latest chapter in a widening regional rift that now affects trade, regional security, and the future of cooperation in West Africa. What exactly went wrong between Cotonou and Niamey? To discuss these issues, I'm joined by Channels Television Sahel correspondent Mo Sani Aliyu. Mo, great to have you on the program.
Thank you for having me, Georgia.
Right. So are these diplomatic expulsions a temporary show of strength or the start of a long-term strife between Benin and Niger Republic?
Well, as you said in your introduction, the immediate crisis between these two countries began when Benin expelled two Nigerian diplomatic personnel who were reportedly linked to a security or intelligence role inside that country. Niger responded almost immediately, expelling Benin's top diplomat in Niamey and giving him only 48 hours to leave the country. This recent tit-for-tat explosion of diplomats between Benin and Niger is not a sudden quarrel, as you may know. It is a visible rupture of a relationship that has been deteriorating quietly since Niger's July 2023 military coup. What we're seeing now is the collapse of trust between these two neighbors, whose political paths have sharply diverged, as you can see, with consequences that go far beyond diplomacy. This crisis sits at the intersection of regional power politics, post-coup insecurity, and ideological realignment, and everyday economic survival in West Africa. Both governments chose retaliation over restraint according to some experts, and in diplomacy, as you very well know, that choice matters. It signals that neither side currently believes dialogue will work. Joke.
Right. And how credible are Niger's accusations that Benin is being used by foreign powers against it?
Well, Niger has repeatedly accused Benin and several ECOWAS nations of allowing foreign military forces, particularly Western partners, France to be specific, to use its territory or ports in ways that threaten Niger's sovereignty. That is the accusation. It has always said this. Benin denies these claims and insists that it does not allow its territory to be used against Niger. But what matters most is not just whether these accusations are true. What matters is that Niger's leadership believes them, or at least they find them politically useful in a post-coup environment where these regimes survive by portraying themselves as defenders against external enemies. Suspicion always becomes key or policy. This suspicion explains why Niger sees diplomats as security risks rather than channels for dialogue. And this crisis also reflects a deeper regional split. If you remember, Niger has aligned itself with Mali and Burkina Faso under the alliance of Sahel states, while Benin remains anchored in ECOWAS, aligned with the rest of the countries who are democratically led and following norms and regional cooperation. Okay.
Right. Who actually is losing more from this prolonged border closure, Benin or landlocked Niger? How sustainable is this standoff for ordinary traders and border communities?
Excellent question. While these two governments trade accusations, it's the ordinary people that pay the price. The Niger-Benin border has effectively remained closed since shortly after that July 2023 coup led by the Nigerian General Chani. And for landlocked Niger, this is economically suffocating. The ports in Benin are a critical gateway for fuel, food, and consumer goods for Niger. You know, Nigeria has always been the closest partner to Niger, but this issue has, initially forced Niger to switch over to using ports in Benin Republic. But this crisis now has effectively close all the loopholes, all the border crosses that Niger enjoys. This suspension, the suspension of these embassy operations compounds that damage. Okay.
And right, should Nigeria step in as mediator, do you think, or would that risk dragging it into a regional confrontation?
Well, Nigeria has no choice but to intervene, even though its role is currently being challenged, especially by the three Sahel states of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger. Yeah, you remember just last month, Nigeria had a scuffle with, if I may say, use that word, with Burkina Faso when the Nigerian Air Force aircraft, 11 Air Force personnel were arrested and detained by the Burkinabe officials. And remember also that Nigeria shares borders, trade routes, and security space with both Benin Republic and Niger. And prolonged hostility between Benin and Niger will threaten cross-border trade flows that affects Nigeria because most of the goods that are sold in Benin Republic and Niger come from Nigeria or come through Nigeria. Regional security coordination will also be threatened because they have been cooperating against insurgent and criminal groups, and ECOWAS credibility as a stabilizing force in the region will also be threatened because Nigeria is seen as the leader or the leadership of ECOWAS. And right now, this division, this divide, has brought more problems than solutions.
Right. Just one more before I let you go. I know that it's Niger and Benin Republic that are having a spat, but as you've just put it, Nigeria too now seems to be in a bind. How does this affect traders in Nigeria and also those border communities?
Excellent. As I said earlier, in the last answer I gave to the last question you asked, most goods in sub-Saharan Africa, specifically in the Sahel region, come from or through Nigeria. A lot of the traders that take these goods to these countries are Nigerians. They are not Nigerian or Burkinabe. They are mostly Nigerians, and there are a lot of them who will find this suspension of relationship, the closure of borders between Benin Republic and Niger, quite stifling because they will not be able to take their goods and services easily and across the region as they used to. And that will mean a lot of goods and services will get stuck in Benin Republic at the port and in Nigeria. The Niger Republic has a serious problem with Nigeria because it says that the Nigerian authorities are allowing foreign elements, that is France and the United States, to use it as a staging post to attack Niger or to threaten its security. And that is why the borders across these two countries officially are open between Nigeria and Niger, but getting goods across is a lot of headache. And therefore, a lot of traders and business persons in Nigeria are going to find it really difficult to get their goods over there and to get payment for their goods and to even get goods out of those countries into Nigeria.
Right. Mo, thanks again.
Thank you for having me.
And still to come on the program. South Africa ramps up operations at busy Berkbridge border as citizens return home after the festive break. Do stay with us for details. Welcome back. South Africa President Cyril Ramaphosa has strongly condemned the U.S. military operation in Venezuela. During an address on Tuesday, the president says the United States' action in the country was undermined has undermined the territorial integrity and sovereignty of a UN member state. According to him, South Africa utterly rejects the actions that the United States has embarked upon and calls for the release of President Maduro and his wife, Cecilia.
It is our commitment to international law and the United Nations Charter that informs our deep concern and action of the United States in Venezuela, which has undermined the territorial integrity and sovereignty of a UN member state called Venezuela. We reject utterly the actions that the United States has embarked upon and stand with the people of Venezuela. And we demand the release of President Maduro and his wife as well. We reiterate our call for decisive action by the United Nations Security Council to fulfill its mandate.
The Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment in South Africa has urged the public not to eat white mussels and other shellfish that has been washed up on beaches due to the red tide. The department says the mussels are washed up on the beaches after being poisoned, and this is common during summer along the west coast. A week ago, a large number washed ashore on the west coast. And as thousands of travelers make their way back to South Africa from Zimbabwe and other neighboring countries through ports of entry, the Border Management Authority has ramped up operations at Beitbridge border, which is one of the busiest. BMA says it'll be working with police officials and members of the South African National Defence Force. Drones will also be used to detect any illegal activity. The Niger State Ministry of Women Affairs Niger State's Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development says initiatives targeted towards children development is currently being worked on to ensure that young people embrace emerging technology. The Commissioner for Women Affairs and Social Development, Hadiza Idris Kuta, said this during a children's party organized by the Ministry for less privileged children and vulnerable persons to mark the 2026 New Year celebration.
The Niger State Ministry of Women Affairs and Social Development has organized this event for less privileged and vulnerable children in the state to mark the new year. The children engage in different fun activities such as dance competition in addition to sumptuous meals.
Everyone are having fun, and I'm so happy because I won the dancing competition. I want to tell our governor, Mohamed Omar Bago.
I'm happy to hear. I've made good friends. Thank you, Niger State, for organizing this party for us.
The First Lady of Niger State, who was represented by the wife of the Chief of Staff to the Niger State Governor, explains the aim of the event.
We are here to celebrate with our children, to wish them a Happy New Year, and also to encourage them to do better, and also to show them love and support. And make sure to let them know that we're always together with them. Our Excellency, their smart mommy, is always with them. And also their farmer father is always with them to feed them.
The Niger State Commissioner for Women Affairs and Social Development expressed gratitude to Governor Umar Bago and his wife for their support and commitment to the welfare of children in the state. She also announced plans aimed at the development of children in the state.
We'd like to thank our former Governor Umar Mohamed Bago and Hajia Fatima Bago for arranging this lovely party for the children. We have ice cream, we have popcorn, we have candy floss, we have drinks, we have cake, we have food. And you can see everybody, they're wearing their t-shirts and they're all happy. and that is what we're out to achieve. We thank God and we thank our governor. We have a lot of programs in stock for the children, inshallah, and we'll now let you know as they unfold, according to how, based on order of priority, education, the computer age, digital technology, and different things like that. We want our children to be in line with what is happening and how the world is now turning into technology.
As the year 2026 is ushered in with joy and celebration by these children, the Niger State government has promised to continue to drive initiatives that will sustain the smiles on their faces.
And finally, our fun fact about the continent. Did you know that Africa is uniquely the only continent that extends through the northern temperate zone across the tropical zone, straddling the equator, and into the southern temperate zone, resulting in an extraordinary range of climates from subarctic mountains to deserts, rainforests, and savannas? This extreme north-south span, combined with the equator and prime meridian crossing it, gives Africa its unparalleled climatic and geographical diversity. Well, if you didn't know that, now you know. Well, thank you for watching Network Africa. I'm Joke Rochers.